Welcome back. I'm delighted to introduce this morning Sharron Dreyer, who many of you know here as a resident. Sharron is also a member of the Commission on Aging, Fairfax County Commission on Aging. Welcome, Sharron. We're glad to have you. You and I talked a year or so ago. Gosh, it's been
maybe
more like
2 years.
2 or 3 years now that I think about it.
Right.
And you told me recently that this is now, you were recently appointed to your 3rd term, is it?
I think that's right. I think this is beginning my 5th year, so that's my 3rd term.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's splendid. One of the things I thought we should start with, I suspect most of us are unaware of even the existence of the commission, and for you to tell us what it does.
Well, Fairfax County has many boards and commissions. The Commission on Aging is a group of 12 volunteers, each one appointed by a member of the Board of Supervisors. So I'm the lead district commissioner to the Commission on Aging, appointed by Supervisor McKay. We meet once a month on the 3rd Wednesday in varying locations throughout the county so that somebody from Sully District has an easier chance to go to a meeting than if you live on Route 1 or in Springfield. Our meetings are open to the public. Our goal, our job, our whatever is to be advocates for older adults. Mm-hmm. And Fairfax County has 16.5%, I didn't do the math, 16.5% of 1.4 million people are over 65 in Fairfax County.
Is that, how does that compare with?
Well, it's
the national average.
It's an increasing number. There are pockets of older adults in Florida, for example, Arizona, but in Fairfax County, we're very aware of the fact that the population is graying. We talk about the tsunami, the gray tsunami or the silver tsunami. Mm-hmm. And because of that, in 2014, the Board of Supervisors adopted the 50-plus Community Action Plan. And I want to underline community, because the goal of that plan is to make Fairfax County more aging friendly. So the 50-plus action plan was a long time in the works. You may remember that probably in 2012 and 13, we had many focus groups here at Green Spring where people from the community could come and basically brainstorm, tell the county what they thought would make Fairfax County more user-friendly for older adults. Mm-hmm. As a result of those focus groups and a lot of behind-the-scenes work, the action plan was put in place, and it's a 5-year plan. It has 31 initiatives.
31?
31.
Can you give us some examples of the kinds of initiatives?
It covered a broad spectrum: housing, transportation, community engagement. Probably the shining star, the one that got off the ground and has just been phenomenal, is the Grand Involve program, which some of our Green Spring residents participate in. The goal of Grand Involve was to get older adults involved in basically Title IX elementary schools. Good for the kids, good for the older adults. The pilot was at...
Now, Title IX meaning primarily
minority? And low income. Mm-hmm. Kids who need free meals, breakfast, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. So Grand Involve is now in its 3rd year. It last year got the Governor's Award for an outstanding volunteer program. Green Spring residents are some of the volunteers who go to Crestwood to read. Green Spring volunteers were involved in some of the local schools before Grand Involve.
Yes.
But specifically with Grand Involve, it's to get community involved. In this case, the bus from Grace Presbyterian Church comes to Green Spring to pick up Green Spring residents and take them to Crestwood. So we have community involvement, the schools, Green Spring, And it's now being replicated in at least 3 of the other magisterial districts in the county, and it's growing. So,
Sharron, do I remember correctly in having read about it maybe a year or so ago that it's very individual, that individuals work with individuals?
It all depends on, it's not a canned program. So if you go to one school and the second grade teacher needs somebody to read to a group of students, that can happen.
I see.
But if
All right.
she needs or he needs one-on-one with students, that can happen too.
Yeah,
So,
I think I remember reading that there were instances where there was really a bond that was created
absolutely.
between a particular child and a particular
one
grandparent.
of the stories that Dorothy Keenan, who was the initiator really behind Grand Involved, tells is that one night at an after-school event or something, a child came in with his mother to school and saw his Grand Involved partner and went running and said, "Mom, this is my Grand Involved lady." So it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for older adults and children to get to know each other.
Yes,
as
yes.
real people. The other, and so probably one of the initiatives at the far end of actually coming into reality, one of the concerns is a medical program for homeless older adults who have medical needs, who've been out of the hospital, need to go somewhere, they're homeless, where do they go?
Is there a fairly substantial homeless population in Fairfax
Yes,
County?
I don't know the numbers, but yes, the numbers are coming down. But we are building a new shelter in the Bailey's Crossroads area, Supervisor Gross's district. And in that new shelter, there will be some beds for homeless, medically fragile older adults. So that's kind of here's Grand Involved, a smashing success right away. Here's a longer range program, but it's the kind of initiatives that are in the 50-plus plan. So
Are there also things like facilities, sidewalks,
not so much
parks, that kind of thing?
but the parks were involved in, they had an initiative, they had focus groups to explore with older adults what could be done in the parks to make them more user-friendly. Railings along the trails, that sort of thing. Benches. One of the real emphasis on this community action plan is the word community, recognizing that the county cannot do everything. And so each of these initiatives had a person from the community who was willing to take the initiative and move the effort forward. A county staff person was given as a resource, and then each commissioner on the Commission on Aging was an advocate for 2 or 3 of the initiatives. So we're making progress. We're actually kind of winding down this and beginning looking for what our next 5 years should look like. So it's a work in progress. I'm sure you'll be hearing more over time.
You and I also talked a couple of days ago about the fact that there are how many CCRCs in Fairfax County?
I think 3.
3. All right.
And a new one planned. Erickson has purchased the old Northern Virginia Training Center on Braddock Road. And
how far from here is that?
It's probably 5 or 6 miles.
5 or 6 miles.
Supervisor Cook, who's supervisor of the Braddock District, has had many provided many community opportunities, focus groups, town hall meetings for residents of Braddock District to provide input about what and how they would like to see that site developed. I think I can't remember how many acres, I should have looked that up. It's a huge piece of property.
As big as Green Spring?
I think bigger, maybe. But it was a state-run facility, and so there's no county zoning involved in that whole big
Oh,
area. So there will have to
uh-huh.
be a zoning change, comprehensive plan change.
So it's going to be a complicated
It's going to be a
process.
while, but that provides opportunity for citizens to say, how about green space? What's going to be the impact of traffic? Those sorts of things. And Supervisor Cook has provided opportunity for that to happen.
Do we know from Erickson what their plans are in terms of number of residents or anything of that sort?
We had a short presentation at the commission last month, and it will be somewhat smaller than Green Spring, but a similar notion. A similar plan: independent living, assisted living, a circle driveway sort of thing to get around the campus. So they're still very much in the planning process, but it appears that they are very much taking into account what the community wants and some community uses for the space.
All right.
But
Well,
it will be a
that's
work in
interesting.
progress because of the zoning that still has to take place.
And we have no idea when the first resident will move in,
We
do
have no idea.
And of course, we can see that will be, in some ways, probably competition with Green Spring.
Perhaps, but I think, in general, they're far enough. I'm sure there's going to be some overlap of people who would move this way or move that way,
Right.
but there's a whole nother world out there in Fairfax on the other side of us.
For sure there is.
So we'll just have to keep polishing our reputation here at Green Spring so that people
That'll
want
be an
to
incentive to-
move here. Right.
That sounds good.
Right.
I see we're getting down to the last minute. Sharron, this is extremely interesting, and I would hope that in the future you would come back and we would get updates, because clearly this is the kind of thing that does have impact on all residents here.
Sure. Well, I think one of the things we who live at Fairfax at Green Spring are a little spoiled about all the resources we have here, and there are lots of residents of Fairfax County who don't have access to these kinds of services. And,
Well, that
it's
is
good for
nicely
us to
put.
be reminded about that.
That's
And,
right. We are a privileged few in the literal sense of the word, aren't we?
We are indeed.
And,
Yes.
and that's a nice thing for us to remember.
One of the other things that the Commission on Aging does is when it's county budget time, one of the things we do is carefully review the county proposed budget to look for any impacts on programs that would affect older adults. So that's one of the
Okay.
things we do early in the spring.
So
is
it's
look at the budget.
oversight.
It's oversight, recommendations. A little more than free advice, but
No,
Right.
that sounds good. I think we always would like to think that there are people looking out for the elder.
correct. And
population.
especially as the population is growing,
Yeah.
even just things like curb cuts and,
Yes.
um,
Yes, for sure. That's
Right.
a major issue.
right.
Well, Sharron, we are out of time, so I think we will close with this. Again, I'm delighted you came today. This
Thank you.
is extremely interesting and helpful.
I'll keep you posted.
Please do.
Thanks.
Thanks.